returns of the day. That means many happy returns of similar kind of celebration every year. Well, I have decided to talk about a CSIR Aroma mission, which was started in 2017 when Professor Ashutosh Sharma happened to be the secretary of DST. And I'm sure that Dr. Girish Sahani must have been sharing his excitement about this Aroma mission. Actually, Dr. Girish Sahani was a conceiver, and he conceptualized this concept of Aroma mission because he was familiar of the strengths of the different CSIR laboratories, and he knew that 5 of these CSIR laboratories, that is CMAP in Lucknow, NBRI also in Lucknow, and NEAST in Jorhat, IIII in Jammu, and IIT Kanpur. These 5 labs were working for the welfare of farmers and developed good varieties of aromatic crops. But there was no concerted effort, and he conceptualized that can these 5 labs come together and do something which will have an actual impact, will transform the lives of the poor farmers. Then he passed on the baton to me that you have to conceive and you have to be associated right from the inception about this program. So this is the picture of Dr. Girish Sahani when he put down the cloak of CSIR. I think in this function, the Professor Ashutosh Sharma was also present. Now, we are all familiar about the aromatic products. Every day, we use a large variety of daily use things like toothpaste, face wash, face cream, body wash, shampoo, hair conditioners, and all of them have a fragrance. Fragrance is part of our life, and much of it comes from many of the aromatic crops. The nature's bounty gives us these kind of fragrances. And over the years, we have learned how to extract this and put to our use. This starts from the aromatic plants, and you distill these parts of the plants, whether it's the leaves or whether it's the root, and you take out the essential oils. And these essential oils are full of the aroma ingredients or fragrance or flavor ingredients. And then you subject them to fractionation, which leads to the segregation or separation of the aroma ingredients. And now you can mix and match, particularly perfumery. You can create variety of kind of perfumes by mixing and matching of these different aroma ingredients. And then you have these end products. Now, when Dr. Girish Sahani mentioned that please choose the plant varieties on which we have done major work, then the 5 labs of CSIR, they came together, they interacted with the industry, they assessed the need of the country or need of the world, and what kind of essential oils do we require, which kind of essential oils we are importing from the other countries, can we be self-reliant, and can we also be exporter of these essential oils. And then a dozen of these crops, peppermint, menthol mint, geranium, patchouli, citronella, lemongrass, pomarosa, vetiver, damask rose, ocimum, cactus, and lavender. These were chosen based on their higher returns and lower inputs, and these crops could be utilized in the land, because the main challenge was that we did not want to utilize the land which is used for cultivation of agricultural crops. So we wanted to use the land which is unutilized, which is affected by salinity, which is affected by drought, which is affected by submergence, flood. So these kind of lands had to be utilized for enhancing the income of the farmers. And these labs of CMAP, IHPT, etc. had developed these technologies, the distillation unit, because these crops are useless unless you take out the essential oils. And for that, a variety of kinds of distillation units were available, but some of them were suffering from the loss of distillation. During distillation, a lot of oil goes into the air, and therefore it is important to conserve this loss and converted into the kind of distilled essential oil. So these different varieties were there, and in order to do further value addition, CMAP has been using different large fractional columns to fractionate the aroma ingredients. So many of these technologies were available, and then it was thought that how should we go about it? And then series of meetings were done with the industry. It was extremely important to interact with the industry and find out what is the need. And from that, the aroma industry was invited. Earlier, when I joined at that time, the interaction of CMAP or CSIR labs with the industry, particularly with the aromatic crops, was very limited. But once we invited them, and then they saw what kind of products we have, what kind of varieties we have, they realized the potential of these labs, and they said that we didn't know that, and we should come and work together. Now, a strategy was formed where the crops were selected, and the strategy for improving them was also done. And then the agro-technologies were developed for each kind of crops. And then the distillation process, the post-harvest processing, primary distillation, and fractionation, all these things were strategized and put into place. Now, the first thing was to select pan-India approach. And in the pan-India approach, we decided to work on the dry lands, flood-prone areas, land which is affected by primary and secondary salinity, orchards or plantations under which nothing grows, can we grow something there, then eroded or degraded lands, and hills and valleys which are affected by wild animals. You grow anything, the farmers are discouraged not to cultivate anything because wild animals will destroy that. Can we have the crops which cannot be destroyed by these wild animals? So this was the kind of strategy, not to encroach upon the agricultural land, but to use the land which is marginalized and unutilized. Now, what were the crops which are useful for this? And for that, we identified different kind of crops. For example, the drought-affected areas of Vidarbha, like dry lands, the Pomarosa, vetiver, lemongrass, ocimum, these crops were prepared, these planting material were prepared. The flood-prone, the vetiver, the khas is one crop which can tolerate submergence for about 2 months. So it can tolerate salinity. So vetiver was recommended for such areas. And pacholi can grow in the shaded areas, and this is a high-value essential oil. And this can be grown under the shade in the orchards and for eroded degraded lands and hills and valleys. All these list of crops, they were identified, and the strategy was made that how to make a pan-India impact. And you can see that state-wise distribution of different aromatic crops was prepared. And for this, it was a massive effort of these 5 labs, hundreds of scientists and thousands of farmers, they worked together, and then these agro-technologies were developed and they were demonstrated in the farmers' field. They were demonstrated in the CSIR labs, and they were also demonstrated in the farmers' fields. And you can imagine the kind of massive effort which was required. And then people were made aware, different kinds of farmers all over India, whether it's Assam, Kutch, the Tamil Nadu, in Karnataka, all these areas, our team of scientists went and demonstrated the advantages of doing aromatic crops and telling them that you have a assured market and you will get a good value. And that is how these farmers in different locations were sensitized and showed the technologies which they were prompted to accept. And you can see the interaction with the industry, local areas, just to give you a glimpse that how far and wide we had gone to interact with the people and convince them, to the extent that I had personally gone to meet to use their spiritual influence to cultivate these kind of aromatic crops. And we went to Shanti Kunja, and they also started. So taking everybody on board, whosoever could promote this kind of mission. Now, we used to organize Kisan Melas. Thousands of farmers will come to our CMAP, and this used to be a very, very awaited affair. 6,000 to 8,000 farmers will come, and they will not just come for the sake of fun, because we used to provide high quality planting material. They were assured of that they will have good returns, and that is why the display of technologies and provision of the high quality planting material at subsidized rate was given, and these farmers will take them happily to their fields with a lot of hope for prosperity. Now, some of the areas where the farmers could not, afford to buy distillation units, or distillation units could not go, we devised mobile distillation units. And these mobile distillation units were sent to far off places. And at many such places where the problem of fuel was there, then we made solar-powered distillation units. And most of the time, when the sunshine is there on the hills, the distillation process can be done with the solar energy. But it's not there, then the fuel wood or firewood can be used. Now, so different kind of models were constructed for this distillation units, and that actually helped because farmers can grow, but they can get their money, they can get the return only once the end product, that the essential oil, that comes in their hand so that they can sell it. So, the other thing is that after the extraction of essential oil, the residues are left, and these farmers were given the technologies like mushroom cultivation, making this environment-friendly cultural resets, and making chappals from the vetiver roots, used vetiver roots. So that way, the waste residues were utilized and the technologies were given to the farmers so that they can make some extra money, besides making the vermicomposting and a few other things. Now it is very important that if you want to be a global player at the national level, you want to be a global player, then you need to have the estimate of total amount of essential oil which is going to be produced by the country, because there is a big fight between synthetic and naturals. So the buyers of the naturals, natural aromatic or fragrant material, they want to have the clear-cut estimate that how much the country is going to produce. And for that, drone technology was developed at CMAP, and this was deployed to make an assessment, because when the satellite crosses, the frequency of the satellite going across those areas is very, very rare. And therefore, drone technology had to be deployed in order to make an assessment how much mint is being cultivated, how much lemongrass is being cultivated, and to give a correct idea to the global buyers that this much of the natural is going to be produced. So that was a kind of technology which would help a lot in making us or India as a global player in terms of the production and export of essential oils. Now, at CMAP, we also developed incubator, and this was a unique kind of experiment. We developed a technology business incubator, and the buyers, young entrepreneurs, were given the technology, and they were also given the assurance that you can produce your products in our facility. It can be packaged the way you want. You can explore the market, and once you are convinced, then you can buy the technology. So they didn't have to invest money in buying the equipment for procurement and realizing after a couple of years that they are not successful. So we wanted to give that kind of assurance. And Dr. Harshvardhan at that time was the Minister for Science and Technology. He inaugurated this, and at least more than 100 entrepreneurs have benefited from this kind of facility which has been created. You can see that these are the facilities which were created, which were being used, and the kind of products which are being made from this facility, and it goes into the market so that the entrepreneurs succeed, and many of them have bought the technology and they have become successful entrepreneurs. So this whole aroma mission was an experiment of promoting purposeful partnerships. The 5 CSIR labs, they came together for development of sustainable models for cultivation of aroma crops, then development of processing and quality determination units, and value addition of waste utilization, knowledge of the technology generation and utilization, skilling, and there's a huge amount of skilling exercise was done under this mission, and promotion of aroma crops. Now, among the success stories, the Purple Revolution in Jammu and Kashmir has been talked about by Prime Minister himself in Man Ki Baat. Similarly, he has also talked about the lemongrass, India becoming the leading lemongrass, self-sufficient lemongrass oil producer and exporter in the country. The Golden Revolution in Himachal, that is the production of Tagetes Manuka essential oil, so that is another success story. Now, this is the self-reliance in lemongrass. After the launch of the aroma mission, India has become the net exporter of the lemongrass oil over the years, you can see that 2017-18, we used to produce 388 tons per year, and in 21-22, we produced 600 tons, which was beyond our domestic requirement. And now the production has gone much higher. Similarly, in the production of vegetable oil, India is again leading. It has come to self-sufficiency level, and now we are going to be the net exporter of the vegetable oil. Similarly, the situation of the palm oil. So whatever was imagined at that time by Dr. Sani and then Fast in his group, now these things have come to the fruition. And when we hear that the Prime Minister talks about the success of our mission, the Purple Revolution, the production of lavender oil, production of self-sufficiency in the lemongrass oil, it is very heartening to all of us who have been there from the stage of its conception and inception. And you can see that underutilized lands, difficult terrains, tribal areas, areas facing weather vagaries, and threat from wild and domestic animals, in such areas, a ray of hope has been given, and which has resulted into the empowerment of the farmers. Dr. Mashelkar, he visited in 2018 CSIR lab, he interacted with the farmers, and eventually, much before this day of success, he was able to say that it is going to be a life transformation mission. You can see the progress so far. The area covered under aromatic crops, in the first phase it was 6,200 hectares, and now it is tenfold more. And similarly, the kind of entrepreneurs developed, 110 entrepreneurs have been developed, and 96 lakhs rural employment has been generated, and total essential oil produced is worth about 5,000 tons, about 660 crore worth of it. So this collective effort of several labs, farmers, industry, media, everyone has resulted into the success story. It's probably not easy to develop this kind of cooperation, but I think when it helps, when we see a promise of transforming the lives of the people, empowering the people, then everybody gets enthused, and that has been the reason for its success. Thank you very much.